what is true is that Texas is 5-0, and that's what really, really counts. Catch. And what has been your thoughts on this team as you've kind of had the weekend to kind of process it?
I don't know that I've had a whole lot of like super big picture thoughts about the team. Maybe I've run out of super like big picture thoughts until this game on Saturday. I think the Kansas game kind of played out like I thought it would. People last week were pretty quick to like stomp on the notion that it would be a game going into the second half, but it was. And, I think it probably goes even deeper into the second half if Jalen Daniels plays. But this is a really good Texas team. And my expectations on Saturday were that over 4 quarters, they would just be the better football team with better players and ultimately that would lead to like a double-digit win. And that's kind of what happened, whether or not Jalen Daniels played or not. I think we've seen enough of this Texas team. I think we got a real good feel for them. We know what their strengths are. I think we know what the questions are. This week is more of a referendum on Oklahoma than I think it is on Texas, because I feel like I know this Texas team. We've seen them go on the road at Alabama. We've seen them play 2 ranked teams. They have other questions that they'll have to answer along the way, including some this weekend. But Oklahoma is a team we know nothing about. We don't know if they're really, really good. We don't know if this 5-0 record that they've built up is kind of a sham, because they haven't played a single team that's currently receiving a single vote in either the AP or the coaches poll. Like they've played a poor schedule. They've found themselves in tussles with SMU in Cincinnati that went on longer than I think a lot of people would suggest. Now, look, Texas had kind of the same issue against Wyoming a couple of weeks ago, but we've seen Texas play really good teams. We've even seen them play those on the road. I don't know how good Dylan Gabriel is, and I don't really know how much better this Oklahoma team with all of their shining stats. I don't know really how good they are, and that's part of what we'll find out on Saturday. But I think my big thought about this game coming out of the weekend is, who is Oklahoma? Who is Dylan Gabriel? How good are they really? Texas is number 3 in the country right now because they've already proven this season that they're really good.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting if that's your thought process on who is OU. It's hard to know, to your point. It's hard to know much about it. And I feel like what I do know, I kind of know and feel like at the end of the day, they're not better than Texas. But what I do know about them, there's nothing that I've seen that suggests to me that this team has a team that could equal what Texas's success has been this season. Dylan Gabriel, to me, I feel like I kind of know who he is, which is he's a guy who is good enough to play in college and be serviceable, but that's about it. If Dylan Gabriel was anything of an elite nature, he would be in the NFL right now. He's not. He didn't have a season last year that suggested that he would be in the NFL, and then he doesn't have anything this year that suggests that he would be in the NFL. So I feel like good might be what we describe him as. Nothing great, nothing spectacular. The same way, we kind of put him as a notch below Jalen Daniels as far as like the rankings concerned. You put him as a 7, Jalen Daniels as an 8. So I feel like overall, I feel like I know like OU is just an okay team that's undefeated, and that's great, and they probably will be good enough to have a rematch in Arlington when it's all said and done. But I feel like what I know about Texas is that I know that they're a better team than OU, and that they should win this one fairly easily if they bring their A game. And it's a rivalry game, so anything can happen. But I feel like what I know about Texas, sitting here where they're at, they're a far superior team.
If these teams played 10 times at the Cotton Bowl, how many times do you think this Texas team beats this Oklahoma team?
I mean, 9 out of 10. Just giving them the one opportunity for like something crazy could have happened. I can look at Texas and see noticeable differences between last year's team and this year's team. As relates to Oklahoma right now, I don't know how many noticeable differences that there are. Now, the records will speak to that as far as it being a little bit different and a little bit better. But I don't know. But to your point, when I look at this Oklahoma team, that I look and see a team that I say to myself, wow, these are great strides that they have made. I look at a team that it's like, okay, all right. And maybe again, maybe we'll see. Maybe this ends up being a fourth quarter game with them. But I haven't seen anything so far. I don't know what area in the matchup area, Catch, I would give OU the advantage versus Texas. What are there areas that you would give them an advantage?
Well, I'll be honest. It sounds like you're talking about Oklahoma like they're a bunch of scrubs, and I wouldn't go that far. I think in this rivalry in general, there have been way too many years over the course of the history when Texas has been the worst team and has won games. There were 4 years in a row in the late 80s going into the early 90s when the Longhorns were the worst team every time they played the game, and yet they won. We've seen Charlie Strong teams win this game. We've seen Tom Herman's team win a game and then lose in a championship game. Like, it's a rivalry that I don't think lends to a one team wins the game 90% over the other. No matter how good those teams are, this is traditionally a rivalry where, you hate to buy into the cliches of like on any given day, like, throw out the record books. Like, I'm not quite just going into that territory because that's lame, but some of that does apply. Here's what I would say about Oklahoma. On paper, it's a good football team. Now, they don't play games on paper, and we've already established they haven't played anybody, but they're number one in the Big 12 in scoring offense, 47.4 points per game, and they're number one in scoring defense at 10.8 points per game. We can nitpick an SMU performance or a Cincinnati performance, but on the whole, they're averaging 37 more points than their opponent this season, and Texas is averaging about 24 points more than their opponent this season. Both of those marks are really good. I'm only establishing that Oklahoma's not dire. They're second in offensive yards per game. They're second on defense in yards allowed per game. They're averaging 4 yards per carry as a team. I think that's actually one of the numbers to keep an eye on. But they're only allowing 3.2 yards per carry on defense. And by comparison, Texas is 3.1. So pretty close. When it comes to passing efficiency as a team, Oklahoma has a 192.5 team passing efficiency. Texas is at 162.8. Now, again, Texas played a better schedule, played tougher teams, but the numbers are the numbers. They are first in defensive passing efficiency with a 102.7 rating. Texas is second. They're making 85.7% of their field goals. Texas is making 64.3. They've only allowed 4 sacks all season. Texas has allowed 9. I'm not calling them world beaters, but I do think that this is an Oklahoma team that so far this season, I think they're pretty good. But Texas might be great. Like, that's the conversation that we're having. I think if I answered my own question, how many times do I think Texas would beat this Oklahoma team if they played 10 times? I'd probably say 7. And 7's a healthy number. 70% is a big number. And that leaves 30, which means that less than 1 out of every 3 times you play the game, you win the game if you're Oklahoma. But that's certainly a puncher's chance. And maybe that's what I think they have this weekend. I mean, I'm going to pick Texas to win this game. I'm probably going to pick them to win by double digits. But that's not because I immediately think that everything that Oklahoma has cooking is fraudulent. They're a pretty good football team. And I think, like you said, Anwar, they might be pretty good enough that they'll play this game a second time in December. But, I'm just fascinated to see what Oklahoma is. I think this is the biggest game of Dylan Gabriel's life. You said it. If he was really, really good, he'd be in the NFL right now. He's never really played well against ranked teams, which is, I think, one of the reasons why he transferred to Oklahoma in the first place. He was having a lot of success at Central Florida, but nobody really looked at him as a dude. So he transfers to Oklahoma with the thought of, I'm going to emerge in 2022 as a dude. And it didn't happen. He got hurt, but also in games of substance, when he wasn't hurt, he wasn't all that good. Go back and look at the 6 of 17 performance against TCU. Like, not good. So I think that there's just there's no mystery on the Texas side of this for me. I have a lot of respect for Oklahoma that they're pretty good. Are they very good? I don't know. Are they great? Surely can't go that far. And we are at a point where when we talk about Texas, I think we're talking about them as a great team.
Yeah, I think relates to this, and we'll get into some super chats in a second. When I think about that, I mean, it may be semantics of wordplay. At the end of the day, Oklahoma has played, 2 P5 schools so far on their schedule, which I think it's Cincinnati and Iowa State. Outside of that, they play Arkansas State, SMU, and Tulsa. So, 3 non-P5 schools, 2 teams that Cincinnati and Iowa State we kind of view as kind of a bottom tier team in this conference. So this will be for them. For Oklahoma, this will be their big test. Texas has been tested already, right? Texas is going on the road versus Alabama. Test, right? Texas has Kansas that was coming here, and there's no Jalen Daniels, so maybe you kind of incomplete in some words and stress, but at least there's been one major test that they've passed. Oklahoma hasn't had a test yet, and so this will be for OU their first real opportunity to see where they stand and where how much progress they really have made. I give them credit. Now, where I will give them credit, Catch, good teams beat the hell out of inferior teams. And so beating the hell out of Arkansas State, that's something you should do, right? You should beat the hell out of an Arkansas State. You should beat the hell out of Tulsa. So, yeah, they're good. I think Oklahoma is the second best team in the conference, which is not, by the way, an insult by any stretch of the imagination. I think this will be one of 2 times that these teams play this season. My just thought process is yours. I think Texas wins. I think they probably win by double digits. I don't think from a matchup standpoint, when we come outside the stats, outside of maybe the kicking game, I hear all your stats. I don't know if Oklahoma's better than Texas. Texas offensive line versus the Oklahoma defensive line, the Texas defensive line versus the OU defensive line, these receivers versus those DBs, quarterback for quarterback. The matchups, when Jason does his matchups this week, it will probably lean in Texas's favor in just about every single category. But to your point, it might be great versus good. And good is good, but Texas is seemingly on another level. And then it's just a matter of, does this team somehow come down to earth, or do they just stay up in this stratosphere where they're here and everybody else is playing for second? So we got some super chats. The super chats have been on fire today. Robert dropped 100 in the super chat. BLK dropped 50 in the super chat. Everyone just happy. Oh, yeah. There's been about easily maybe about 170, 180 in super chat so far before you got in. People are in a very, very good mood. So I like that. Very, very happy.
Hercules.
Yeah. So JB throws in, and hey, $2 ain't nothing to be shy about. So Didn't Kansas end Sam's streak too? The consecutive streak? The answer to that is yes. Yes, if you got a streak that's going over a number of games, a lack of interceptions catch, and you play against Kansas, I guess somehow that comes to an end. So
that's a weird coincidence.
It is.
I'm trying to make something out of that other than it's a coincidence, and I really can't.
It's a definitely weird coincidence, nonetheless. And Agent Z is in here mourning. Here's a question: who needs this win more, Texas or OU? And hook 'em for Agent Z from Agent Z. What do you say?
I mean, Texas is trying to make the playoff and like compete for a national championship.
Correct.
Although Oklahoma fans will say that if they win this game, so are they. So it's Texas by a smidge, but I think Oklahoma could at least make a strong case of an equal argument, because if they win on Saturday and emerge 6-0 and have leverage over Texas in the Big 12, they'll be ranked ahead of Texas next week. So, yeah. And because they're what, 12, 13?
12. Yeah.
Losing to Oklahoma in this situation, if it were a normal team, Anwar, I think you could make the case. Like if they lose to Kansas last week, I think they drop back to like 9 or 10, but they're still ahead of Alabama and still ahead of Oklahoma. But if they lose the head-to-head this weekend, they're close enough that Oklahoma could get a bump and Texas would fall behind Oklahoma. Obviously, these two teams would play again potentially in a Big 12 championship game, and it would sort its way through. But it wouldn't be completely unproblematic if they lost this weekend from a ranking standpoint, because in the same way that they have leverage over an Alabama in a discussion that might take place in December, they would lose that against Oklahoma, and it just puts the entire season from, what they're aiming for at this moment in a much more precarious situation than I think just a normal loss might create. Sorry, a little bit of a ramble there, but
that's okay.
Anyway.
That's okay. Super chat. Texas boy, give me 1 second. I'm going to answer Agent Z's question. So Texas boy, give me 1 second. Catch, for me, why I'll lean Texas. I'll go one, what you said, obviously competing for a natty, right? They're in the conversation with the Georgias and Michigans of the world at this moment. Two, Catch, I've been around here now long enough to know one of the worst things to have is a loss going into the bye. Like there's nothing more depressing from a Texas fan standpoint that brings up more apathy and more anger. Texas loses going into a bye week.
Next week would suck.
It's horrible. It's the worst thing ever.
There's no look ahead at all. It's just let's be miserable together. Look, man, if they lose on Saturday and I show up on Monday, don't ask me how I'm feeling. Ask everybody.
You'll be entitled.
Everybody will be allowed to be miserable next Monday if they don't win this game on Saturday.
Yeah, so that's for me, 6-0 going into the bye. This Sarkisian's never been 5-0 in his career. So going 6-0, going into the bye, and now it's just about the second half of the season. That to me, I think Texas right now, because it'd be interesting, because if Texas loses, they may drop. But that could be a situation, Catch, where they may be neck and neck with OU. OU probably goes up a little bit ahead of them, but do you drop from 3 down to 12 or 13? Like, I don't know where that goes. Maybe OU gets ranked ahead. But nonetheless, for me, for what Texas is playing for, it's big for them. All right, Texas boy. Whenever I think about we got Brandon's first, Texas boy second. I'm sorry. Why Sarkisian keep trying to put the ball in Keelan Robinson's hands is essentially the question that Brandon is asking.
Damn, man. Keelan Robinson gets like 1 carry / target a game, and you're begrudging that dude for that?
Man, they came in hot in the super chat this morning, hitting me up with the Jay Witt. Like, why is Jay Witt not playing more than Cook? Why is he playing more than Cook? And so, but this one, Keelan Robinson, basic. I mean, we don't even see Keelan on like returns really that much. He hasn't blocked anything.
Maybe this is a late chat from the bowl game last year. Like it just came in late. It just arrived.
We can check Restream to see what's up. But
this is from late December of 2022.
Poor
Honestly,
Keelan.
I'm a lot more worried about Sark trying to put the ball into Gunnar Helm's arms and hands than I am Keelan Robinson.
Yeah, to catch his point, Brandon, he does only get the ball like once a game. Like it's all right.
Let that man have a cracker.
I mean, so even don't even see Savion Red get the ball. Like it's okay.
You know what he's doing? It's like Keelan went and sat at a fancy restaurant. He sits down at the table. They put some bread in front of him. Keelan goes and grabs a piece of bread. It's like, what is Keelan Robinson doing grabbing a piece of bread? Come on, man. Let that man just eat at the table a little bit.
What you know about that Texas boy? My man, Texas boy is in the chat. OU has too many trans that didn't play last year. The offense transfers, obviously, that's what I'm going to believe what he's referring to. The offense they run plays into PK strength. As long as Jonathan Brooks is healthy, we win by 10 plus. They have no interior D line, secondary suspect. It's a wrap for Texas boy.
When we talk about OU's offense, how does the OU offense play into PK strength exactly? I mean, I'm just asking.
Yeah, go ahead and put that in the chat, Texas boy. I can't speak for him, so go ahead and put the attacks in there.
I'm not saying the Texas boy is wrong. It's just that I'm not quite sure. I mean, the OU offensive scheme is fine for me. Like, if they had a great quarterback instead of a good quarterback, the scheme's fine. If Caleb Williams is running the OU scheme, I'm not sure it plays into PK strength. I think it comes down to, when you look at the OU offense, they've got a good quarterback who's ranked number 1 in the Big 12 in passing efficiency by a lot. So, like, on paper, he's good, but he hasn't played anybody. OU doesn't have a running back, and I don't think this is scheme related, but they don't have a running back that ranks in the top 20 in rushing, which translates to they don't have a running back that averages more than 40 yards per game. So Saturday, when Texas needs tough yards, Texas knows exactly who to go to for the tough yards. It's the guy that ranks, 4th in the nation in rushing right now? Jonathan Brooks has come up, is what I'm telling you right now, Anwar. He was like 16th last week. So this week when I went to look at the rushing numbers, I figured he would make a leap. I didn't expect that when I would look to see let me see what the national rushing numbers look like. It was so unbelievable that I had to take a screenshot of it. He's 3rd in the country in rushing.
Wow. Are we talking about just yards? Or are we talking about what
rushing yards?
Rushing yards.
You've got the running back at Notre Dame has 672. Nate Noel from Appalachian State has 651. Jonathan Brooks is 3rd at 597. He is 75 yards behind, or he's 76 yards away from being the number 1 running back in the country right now in terms of rushing yardage.
So if I presented, and I won't, but if I presented that question to Sark, how long before you mentioned CJ Baxter?
47 seconds. Like, let us know what a great story Jonathan is. And it's a really cool thing that he learned from, Bijan and Roshan and blah, 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 blah. And then he would say, but we have CJ Baxter too. And Baxter started the first 2 games. And, we'll see what happens later on in the season.
It's like Jonathan Brooks now has us rooting for him.
Well, I think it's a great story. Yeah. It's a great story because he comes from the part of the state in Hallettsville. Like that is not North Shore. That is not Duncanville. They're not producing guys in that area on the regular. So the historical data would say that dude's not going to make it. Guys from where he plays ball never make it. What's fascinating to me is I was having a conversation with a source yesterday about NIL, and he was like, we need more. And then he said, And Jonathan Brooks is the next guy that has to get a big NIL deal. And I was like, probably right. You want my big overreaction for the Monday?
What?
Sark's got a running back problem that he doesn't want because the number 3 running back in the country right now is Jonathan Brooks. And look, CJ Baxter starts the season. He got hurt in the opener, and they were like, hey, can you play? Yes, you're starting at Alabama. He told that guy in recruiting, you're going to play right away. You're going to get a lot of snaps. You're my guy. Jonathan Brooks. Look, you think Jonathan Brooks goes pro after the season?
No.
So next year, Sark has a potential All-America running back coming back. And it's not CJ Baxter. Like, what are you telling CJ Baxter about his playing time if you've got a 1,400-yard running back on your team? Because if Brooks keeps up his pace, is Texas going to play in the Big 12 championship game? Onward.
Brooks keeps up this pace?
No.
Yes.
I'm just asking you. Texas plays in the big. Are they going to play in a bowl game?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Forget about like a playoff game.
Yes.
Over 14 games, he's on pace for nearly 1,700 yards rushing.
God.
That's why he keeps on bringing up CJ Baxter, because they're not bringing CJ Baxter up in the games. Like, I'm just telling you, this isn't what was planned. What was planned behind the scenes was that Baxter was going to be their 1,700-yard running back if there was going to be a 1,700-yard running back. And with it being Jonathan Brooks, we always talk about the receivers. There's a lot of mouths to feed. My big Overreaction Monday hot take is that Jonathan Brooks being so good leaves him with a little bit of a CJ Baxter problem. Not so much this year. Like, I'm the kind of jackass that doesn't just focus on the here and now. I'm thinking about next offseason. If and when Brooks comes back and he's 3rd in the nation in rushing, there's no conversation about who the starting running back is. And there is no amount of how good a guy looks in August is worthy of the 1,700-yard running back losing his job. Like, it just it can't happen.
You know what it reminds me of, Catch? It's starting to have the shape up. You remember several years ago, Chris Warren is kind of like the bell cow, and then he kind of gets hurt, and then like, I guess we got to play Deontay Foreman, And then
we're talking rich people problems, right? Hey, we've got 5 stars on the bench that are really good, but they're not better than our starting running back who's 3rd in the country in rushing. Like, we have very quickly assumed some rich people problems at Texas.
It is, yes. And so it is a rich person problem right now. Like, and again, like he has how many yards right now, Catch? And how many yards is he averaging per game now?
He is averaging, hold on, let me go back to that. He's got 597. I want to say he's averaging 119 yards per game. 119.4.
I mean, if there are teams in the country, you're right, Catch, because here becomes the problem right now. Okay. Jonathan Brooks' stock is increasing. If you're a team in this country, Catch, and you don't have a running back, you're looking and you're like, man, what do they do with this Brooks guy? Because if Brooks goes back to the bench, hey, man, like, hey, we got an NIL deal for you, man. Like, you can come over here and be a starter, and you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. But you've got CJ Baxter, like, but that was my spot. So how do you, it's the whole, if I'm Sark, Catch, and this is joke, I'm going to say this playfully. I don't want anyone to get too upset, but this is playfully. I go to the team doctor and I'm writing the report every week, and I'm like, CJ doesn't seem healthy enough to go. Like, I'm like, hey doc, can we just make it seem like it's not okay? Like he's not 100% to buy me some time. Like, don't 100% clear him. Just be like, hey, 50% activity for the rest of the year. So buy me some time, because that's it is a great problem to have. But what's also interesting though, Catch, in this past game, they both had they were close on carries, if I'm correct.
CJ had 16 and Brooks had 20.
Yeah, and so they were close on the carries. And when it's all said and done, Jonathan Brooks, averages 10.8 per carry. CJ Baxter averages 4.2. One guy finishes with 217. The other guy finishes with 70. Like you said, only a difference of 4 carries. So if it's a health thing, it's a health thing. But so far, Jonathan Brooks has been obviously the more effective back.
By the way, someone mentioned, yeah, good. Thank you for pulling that up, whether if that was Anwar or Aaron. If Brooks keeps his pace up, don't you believe he would leave since the NFL doesn't value running backs after their rookie contract? Maybe. I mean, it certainly becomes a possibility that didn't otherwise exist, Anwar. But let me tell you a couple of things. One, not all 1,700-yard backs make for great NFL prospects. I have no idea what the NFL at the moment, the NFL probably hasn't even asked itself the question of how good do we think Jonathan Brooks is. This is all materialized in the last 15 days. He's had 3 100-yard games and a 200-yard game in 15 days. And I'm letting you know right now that behind the scenes, Jonathan Brooks is a guy that Texas feels like with the right NIL offer, you can absolutely justify. They want to give him the Tavondre Sweat and the Jalen Ford package.
Mm-hmm.
Say, yes, you could go to the NFL and be maybe a day 3 guy, right?
Yeah.
But you could be a day 3 guy next year. Why don't you play your senior year, make $750 at Texas, and because it's very possible we can cut you our NIL, Texas NIL can cut a check that's every bit as good as a signing bonus for a day 3 guy in the NFL, and then you could be Tavondre Sweat and emerge as maybe a day 1 or day 2 guy. When a year ago, had you just gone pro, you would have made a lot less money and been drafted in a spot that's not nearly as high as a year ago. I can tell you right now, literally, I'm not making this up. I didn't, unsolicited, I had a source very dialed into NIL tell me yesterday, Jay Brooks is about to get his. And one of them, and getting his, like he was letting me know, we need more people to be giving to NIL. And I'm not talking about all of you guys in the chat. Like, they need the Mattress Max of the world to say, you know what? I got Kelvin Banks this year. That's mine. And I'm not looking for a return on my investment other than my return on investment on the field. So they need very affluent, super wealthy guys. They got the kind of guys that give money to build a library. They need more of those guys to say, you know what? I'm going to take a little sliver of the library fund and put it into the Jonathan Brooks fund. And I'm not telling you that's right or wrong. I'm just telling you that's where things are. But boy, you better believe that Texas will do everything it can, no matter how good Jonathan Brooks ends up this season and whatever the price may be. It's already been communicated to me. They will be doing everything they can to keep him, to keep Byron Murphy, and to keep a few other select players on a big NIL retention plan.
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world, right, Catch? I mean, right now, your top 2 running backs are Brooks and Baxter. And that was our question going into the season, all off season, right? Was who would be the guy that emerges within that room? And Jaden Blue is kind of, he's getting a small amount of touches, for all the talk, Catch, that people were talking about what Savion Red would mean. And you remember when we kept hearing about that package and what were they calling with the guy? Deebo Samuel, right? And you remember exactly. You remember how we would roll our eyes all off season when people were, and it wasn't us, it was other websites that were reporting it. And then, of course, sometimes the players would talk about the Savion Red is going to be just like Deebo Samuel, when in the season. And we kept saying, we don't see that. That's not going to happen. Like there's too many mouths to feed. Texas is not going to get gimmicky. But we've seen when it's all said and done, who the top guys are. And you got to have that going into next year as well. So I'm it makes all the sense in the world. Aaron, do we have another super chat that came in as well? Don is in this here for the super chat. He goes, "Hey, Catch, for the OU fan in the chat, Catch and onward, would OU today beat Alabama today? I really just want y'all to say no so he would shut up." Is that who's saying? Is that the podcast guy? Because I got a beef with him if that's the case. If it's the opinion sports show guy who's in there. I know I saw you earlier, opinion sports show. You hold on, Catch. This guy, OU guy, real cool dude, made a bet with me for a bottle. I'll bet Texas. He would bet OU. Put a bottle on it. I said, email me. He said, cool. And then I looped in Tom G on the email because I need a witness. And I'm like, hey, let's give our funds to Tom G. And then Tom G can disperse it, so on and so forth, right? So I asked him, like, hey, is that cool? It's been weeks, crickets. I haven't heard back from him. I'm just calling you out, opinion sports guy. What you put your bottle where your mouth is. Okay. You think you got a chance against Bama if they played?
Well, yeah, because they could have an advantage at quarterback. I mean, I still don't know. I don't know what Jalen Milrose is any more than I know what Dylan Gabriel is. Alabama with sketchy quarterback play can be had. Now, do I think that Oklahoma would win that game? No. Do I think they could? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think I will say this, in my opinion of OU. Don, I don't think they would. I don't think they would, and I'm not quite sure they'd be able to go on the road. I need to see them against Texas, and see a little bit more. I'm not that far apart from where Catch is, but I'm more than likely I would say no at this moment.
Anwar, OU went on the road and struggled with Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Texas went on the road and beat Alabama by double digits.
And held the ball for 7 minutes.
So, again, sure. I mean, I think Oklahoma could beat Texas this weekend. It's not a could isn't necessarily the issue. Will they? Would they? That is something that's so much more definitive and less certain. And, I certainly wouldn't favor OU. I wouldn't favor OU at home against Alabama, let alone on a neutral field. I wouldn't make Alabama a big favorite. I'm just saying there's no way I could vote an Oklahoma team that was pretty terrible at times last year, and we just don't know how much better they are this year.
You know what? D'Angelo is saying he responded back to me. I do see this thing. If one team makes it to Arlington, the other one does, then the automatic wins go. Okay, you did respond. I take it back. I take back everything I said. I didn't respond back to you. I respond back to you today. Bet on. All right? It's all love, fam. All love. I don't know. What is this? JP Villa 13. It looks like JP Villa 13. Sent my first super chat. Okay, awesome. What's Nayor's story for the rest of the year? Is he buried in the depth chart or is there more to it? There's
yes and yes.
Yeah, I would say there's more. Yes, 100%. There's probably more to it. There's a little doghouse that he needs to climb out of, and he's buried within the depth chart. I think two things are definitely true, JP, as relates to that. Okay. Major Alexander, but you guys are filling up the super chat this morning. Thank you. Major Alexander, $4.99. OU is going to try and stop the run, and that means Worthy has a career day. Calling it now.
Look, to be clear, Xavier Worthy's already had a career day against Oklahoma. So are we suggesting you're telling us right now that Worthy goes for 300 yards?
I mean, woo!
Because it was like a 260 burger he fed them 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's asking a lot. I mean that's that. It's I get what you're saying, but yeah, what it was that career? It was nearly 300.
That's what I'm asking. Is Major saying that he's predicting a 300-yard game? Because if we're talking about a career game as a freshman, I'm pulling. I just want to make sure we have it right. He had 9 catches for 261 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I mean, I'm not going. If you want me to, if that was on Prize Picks, catch,
you would take the less.
I would take the less. If I was on Prize Picks, I don't think Prize Picks will have Xavier catch at more than 85 yards for their line. Is that fair?
Yes.
So I won't take the more than 260. But Major, here's what I do think. I do think, Major, that Xavier Worthy is due for a punt return for a touchdown. I do believe that, and that might be the thing that you end up seeing that is out there. Aaron, do we got?
And Worthy hasn't had a 100-yard game all season. I do think Major's right that Xavier's due for a big one. But, boy, the bar's been set high by Xavier already.
Aaron, are we good on that? We got more. Catch. This Monday, just super chatting it up, baby. Julian is in the house. Good morning to you, Julian. We appreciate you coming in and showing love and support. By the way, everyone who's in here, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't seen it. It is Texas OU week. A bunch of fun stuff, a bunch of fun conversations. Remember, preseason confidence rankings by position. I put in the super chat saying 8. Because someone would pop with his talent. Y'all laugh, feeling good. Wait. Remember preseason confidence rankings by position. I put in which position are you referring to, Julian? Are you talking running back? I'm assuming that must have been the running back conversation, huh? That might have. Julian, we do a lot of shows. I can't necessarily remember that one specifically, but I believe it.
What would we have put at the running back position? But going into the season, it would have been like a 7, right?
8, maybe. I mean, I don't know if I would have gone that high.
Julian, come on. We love your $5. So ultimately, you do what you got to do. But don't hold a grudge for months because you said the word 8 on a 1 to 10 scale when we said a 7? Maybe like 6 point. Like you'd have to tell me. I don't remember, but like, come on. It wasn't like we said a 4 and you said 8.
No.
I don't know what we would have said, but we thought the running back position was pretty good at worst.
Yes, we just didn't know. I mean, to be fair, Julian, to our defense, CJ Baxter is a true freshman, and Jonathan Brooks had limited touches throughout his career. Like you took a step out on faith, and you were correct. Like you took a step out, you ended up being correct. But yeah, we there's no way that we're like this. These guys are trash.
Also, don't do the victory lap before the season's over.
Yeah, don't jinx it.
Like, let's get through Oklahoma. Look, we got a bye week next week. Next week, after Texas is 6-0, send a bunch of super chats where you nitpick how we weren't saying that Texas was great. Let's not do that the week of Oklahoma. You're just asking for a jinx. Trust me, I have jinx superpowers. Yeah, look, I'll give you an example. My team in fantasy football this weekend, after this weekend, is going to be 4-0. You will not hear me say a complimentary thing other than I kind of love A-Chan. Like, because other than that, you don't take victory laps in week 4.
Nah.
Matter of fact, the thing that I usually do, Anwar, is I'll go on to the message board of our fantasy football league and I'll start complimenting the best team in the league. Oh, yeah. It's over. It's over. Paper boys are going to win the whole thing.
Yeah, you were doing that thing to me yesterday, like, oh man, great, hey, tough game. This, and I'm like, why are you? Dude, I may not crack 100. Will you leave me alone on my Sunday?
I am super gracious, and believe me, don't take the victory lap in week 4.
No.
Just last week, I was like, hey, Mike Williams is going to be a good starter for me in fantasy. Broken ACL. Like, you can't do that.
No. All right, we got some more super chats that are just pouring in. Hey, guys, what gives? Brooks rushes for over 200. And another site says, we love what Baxter did. Wait. Hey, guys, what gives? Brooks rushes for over 200. And another site says, we love what Baxter did. Hey, man. You gotta go
that is
there.
Some coach spoke to a site and said, hey, man, can you write something positive about CJ Baxter? Because that I get it. He was the starter. Everything was going to plan, Anwar, for CJ Baxter a month ago.
Yeah.
And then he blinked. He got nicked up a couple of times. And his backup is the 3rd leading rusher in the country.
He's getting Wally pipped.
And they're talking now about giving his backup probably more money than he got to sign with. It's complicated. Like I said, these are rich people problems. But hey, sometimes you have to ask questions about stuff that sites report. I literally don't know what site. There's like 8 sites. So I'm talking in a very nebulous, vague form here. But you gotta understand when someone reports something to you that doesn't make sense, ask yourself what would have happened that led to that being reported.
Correct.
We'll just ask a couple of questions where you go backwards. You might be surprised at the answers that end up revealing themselves.
Yeah, you'll be able to do the math from there, and whatever you think it is, it probably is, and it ends up usually being, to what Catches alludes to, some source saying, hey, do us a solid. Can you put this out there for us for this particular reason? And look,
I'll give you an example of that related to me, Anwar. I wrote about NIL today in my 10 thoughts from the weekend. And there were a couple of people on Orange Bloods who, hey, I don't think they asked the wrong question, which was, how much do you think Texas NIL, the Texas One Fund, is paying Texas or paying Catch to write about this? Now, the answer to that is 0. However, the column originated after I spoke with somebody, technically texted, although in 2023, that counts as speaking, right?
It's speaking.
Communicating. That occurred after I communicated with somebody who's cut a check or two. So, like these things don't happen by accident. I literally had sources quoted in my article, but it's like, how did Catch decide to write that as his lead? Because I spoke with some people.
Yes.
How did that how did that become a thing that got reported? Because somebody spoke with somebody, and I guarantee you that somebody said, hey, man, can you throw me a bone? Can you look, I know he averaged like 4 yards per carry, and Jonathan Brooks went for 200, but can you report that we love what he looked like on the field?
Yep. That's how, and by the way, guys, that's how the sausage is made. The Opinion Sports Show, which I called you out, he's an OU fan. I called him out, but yes, he did respond in there. He did respond to me. I didn't see it. And so I thought it's one of those things I thought I was waiting on you, and you've been waiting on me. I'll hit you up later this afternoon. We'll work out all the details. We're all on the same page. $4.99 though. Hey, and I always say, hey, OU fans, and Aggie, I don't care. It's all love.
I like the Opinion Sports Show. He's in our chats all the time.
Yeah, the good guy. So I got no problems with him. Hey, Catch, what will it take for you to realize that Danny, how do you pronounce his last name? Stutzman is better than Jalen Ford? I think deep down you already know this to be true.
All right, let's work our way backwards. Number one, I've literally not ever in my entire life given this a second of thought. So when you say you think deep down, you already know this to be true. Deep down, It's never been a thought that I've ever weighed inside my brain until you asked the very question. What will it take for me to realize that Stutzman is better than Ford? I mean, he could create a turnover in 8 of 12 games. Stutzman's great. Like, why is there a like question that's like somehow suggesting that I don't think Stutzman is a really good player? He is. He's one of the best defensive players in the Big 12. Jalen Ford was an All-American last year. Jalen Ford is a playmaker who's created 8 turnovers in his last 12 games. That's almost Derek Johnson level. It's not, I don't have anything against Danny Stutzman. Forgive me for just not ever thinking about him.
Well, okay. Well,
have you ever like had a conversation in your head about Danny Stutzman, Anwar?
No. And I can't say that I can't think I've ever done a lot of comparisons with Texas and OU players, to be quite honest with you. Maybe a Quinn versus Dylan kind of conversation, but Danny Stutzman has not been a guy that I've ever thought of throughout the years of OU players. There've been other guys I've thought about.
Well, Stutzman's good. It's like it's weird. Like he doesn't ask me, why do you think Billy Bowman is so good? I saw that you called him a stud on Orange Bloods. I don't get that question. No one, come on, sports guy. Like, don't do that thing where you think I have an agenda against one of the players, but then likes other players. Because I like Billy Bowman a lot. I think Bowman, here's a hot take for you, Anwar. Bowman could be the best defensive back on the field on Saturday.
Ooh.
But there won't be any Oklahoma fan that will give me grace for like giving that compliment. It'll just be you rated Stutzman as a 7 and he's an 8. Sorry. I haven't forgotten that one yet.
All right. What else we got, Aaron? We got the super chats coming in. Harris is in here. Good morning to you, Harris. Are we sure OU could stop Alabama's run game? They
No.
gave them okay. So there's the first part of it, Harris, because they gave him $150, rushed into a bad Iowa State team. Brooks might go for 200 by himself this weekend. It's on the table. Catch. I'm gonna tell you what I can I make a confession? And I just realized I have to stop doing this. Jonathan Brooks on our prize picks, I took the less. I took the less on one of them.
I stayed away from Brooks.
I on one I took the more. On the one I took less. I tried to cover myself. And once like we were through with the first quarter, I was like, all right, well, I got a possibility to win on one. I'm not going to win on this other one.
We both took separate, different actions, and we both feel stupid today.
Yes.
We should have taken the more. In retrospect, that feels rather layup-y. Are we sure OU could stop Alabama's run game? No. I mean, just no.
Yeah.
But their run defense has been okay statistically. Again, they're only allowing 3.2 yards per carry. They haven't been a terrible run defense, but they certainly got gashed a little bit by Iowa State on Saturday. But keep in mind, I mean, Texas gave up like 92 yards rushing in the first quarter against Kansas, and then they only gave up, I think, 25 or 30 in the final 3 quarters. Don't judge either of these two teams' strength or weaknesses through the prism of a one-off, because Oklahoma fans could turn around and go, are we sure Texas can even sustain the ball for more than 25 minutes at a game? Look at what Wyoming did to them. Are we sure they can stop? I mean, if you take an isolated moment during the course of what at this point is a 300-minute sample size, like you can convince yourself almost of anything. Oklahoma's got a good team. They've been fairly good against the run this season, statistically as good as Texas. And yet, no, we're not sure that they can stop the run against Alabama. We're not sure, I think more importantly, that they'll be able to stop the run against Texas. I think it's very possible that Jonathan Brooks has emerged as the most important player in this game. That's not automatic, But boy, if you tell me now, 5 days before the game on War, that Brooks goes for 150 plus, or hell, 100 plus.
Yeah.
That is a very big sign for me that Texas is on its way to victory.
You know what I think of. You know what I think of Jonathan Brooks. I'm convinced of this. I'm convinced that Jonathan Brooks is showing them something in the game that he just didn't show in practice enough of. Like, I think there's a Casey Thompson effect in here where, like Hudson showed something better in practice, then something happened, and then Casey came in, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, golly, look how good Casey is. Why wasn't he the starter to start off the season? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And Casey, remember Casey had that streak where it was like a touchdown on every drive, and you're just like, what in the hell is happening? I feel like there's got to be some Jonathan Brooks where he's got to be showing them something there that he just wasn't showing enough of in practice. He's getting in games, and they're like, what? How is this happening? Like, does anyone? I think that it's going to be one of those things that you take credit for it, but it's also like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. I like that.
I can answer it. I can answer this.
Yes.
Last week, Sark showed up and was like, man, not only is Jonathan Brooks good, but that dude ran 22 miles an hour on Saturday.
Yes.
He said that like he was Quinn Ewers. Like there was a certain, if he had ever been close to 22 miles per hour in practice, he never even would have brought that up on Monday because that's just what Jonathan Brooks does.
Yes.
But I think they look at Jonathan Brooks physically, size, speed, explosiveness as a combination. And I think they think it's way inferior to CJ Baxter. They see CJ Baxter as a 5-star. I think until the last 15 days, they view Jonathan Brooks as like a guy. He's not bad, but they started the true freshman at the very beginning of the season, even at Alabama when he was coming off of an injury for a reason. But what we're learning about Jonathan Brooks is don't bring up my 40. Don't bring up whatever little testing bullshit you put me through the offseason. Don't look at practice. What do I do in the games?
Yeah.
Because look, on Saturday, he looked like he was carrying a piano on his back on that first 67-yard run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had 3 steps on the defense, and he turned his head back like I'm about to get walked, and he did. But then on the 55-yard touchdown run, he looked like Ben Johnson on steroids.
Yeah.
So he's a weird little conundrum of a set of ideas because I think Steve Sarkisian would have said CJ Baxter takes that 67-yard run to the house, and that's why we think he's better. But I think Jonathan Brooks says when the games start, it's not about how you test, it's about how you play. And right now, I'm a 5-star player, and CJ Baxter is a 5-star prospect.
Yeah. He is a more effective Jordan Whittington, where he may not take it to the house all the time, but but when he does, my God, he does. All right. We are coming up on it, but the super chats are coming in. So I got to roll through this, but I do have Sark at 11, guys. So I do have the lead.
Let's finish the super chats, guys. We love the money. No more super chats. Let us finish these out so that Onward is not tardy for a press conference that Steve Sarkisian will be tardy for. You care way more about being on time than the person who you're going to see cares about you being on time.
Catch, I don't understand. Can I say this? What I don't understand is the reason why Sark is late is because they're usually holding practice in the stadium. So I just don't understand why not move it back to 11:30. It makes so much sense.
Because now it's a funny bit. I mean, seriously, we've reached the point now where we're making jokes on our Slack channel that there's a Prize Picks like time for when he shows up. Last week was 11:20, remember? And everybody's taking the more or less on whether or not it's going to be later than 11:20. It honestly, it's happened so much now. It just doesn't even bother me. It's just funny now. It's just hilarious that a guy that, because Sark, how upset would Sark be though if he had it 11 o'clock and one of his players showed up 20 minutes late?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And look, it's just funny.
Yeah.
But if any principles are in play at all, Sark would never allow the amount of, so I think in the name of keeping him from looking bad, not that anybody cares.
Yeah.
But yeah, you started at 11:30, and you know what? When he shows up at 11:25, he's early.
Correct. Like, you make him look great. You make him look great. But look, he's coming off the practice field. He wants to do his hair. He wants to come out all sweaty and stuff like that.
And he doesn't completely give a fuck. Like, it's all of those things.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's a thing that he just doesn't even want to have to do. You add all of that together and you have a super baby of tardiness.
Yeah. You think last thing, you think Sark is thinking to himself at 10:50 and he's running a play like, oh snap, I got 10 minutes because Onward's got a question or Chip's got a question or Kurt Bowles. He's like, man, I'll get there when I get there, man. We got
John Bianco whispers into Sark's ear, just so you know, Jeff Ketchum made a joke on Twitter about your tardiness for the press conference. How do you want to handle that? And he's like, wait.
How many F-bombs throwing? How many F-bombs?
I'll show them tardiness.
Yes.
You know what? He grabs the newspaper. I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Big Tex. If the game comes down to the kicking game, who has the advantage? Big Tex, you don't have to ask that one. Catch gave you the numbers.
Well, hold on. OU is I don't have it in front of me, but they're great on field goals, and Texas isn't. And they're not good at all punting the ball, and Texas is.
Yeah.
So from a kicking game standpoint, field goals are more important than punts, right?
Sure.
So OU has an edge. Both are good in the return game. I don't think there's the real edges would seem to be OU's edge in place kicking and field goals versus Texas's edge in picking up hidden yardage in the punt game, because OU's among the worst teams in the Big 12 in punting, and I think Texas is second.
Can I just give an unpopular, like, I don't want to shoot just strays at kickers or whatever, but you can't have two kickers on scholarship and be at 64%. Not with two kickers. Like that's unacceptable to me. If you're going to use having kicking scholarship is one thing, two is really a lot, and you're telling me you just got one guy for kickoffs and that's it, and then the other guy kicks field goals. It's kind of like it reminds me of like Dunder Mifflin when it's like they both were managers, catch. And one guy's like, I'm the big picture guy, and I have to handle everyday things. It's like Jim and his ball. Like, that's what it boils down to me. Like, don't give me two kickers. All right, give me one who can do it all. Don't give me two that's barely doing the job of one. Like that. That's just I don't love that.
I can live with two if you're really good, but you can't be and then have two.
Texas boy, he's talking about he put this up with Brooks, say he's not running against our D line as the reason for the success. Well, the thing is, Texas boy, I would say this, it's neither CJ Baxter, so there's some. I'm not saying this is the case, but as relates to Jonathan Brooks, scared people run fast, catch. Like, I mean,
he's like he's like Freddy Krueger is chasing him.
Yes,
it's that whole thing of like, look, man. Anwar, and if Anwar and I got into a race, like my 40 times, probably like 6'5". But if Jason or Freddy Krueger were chasing me, I'm going to run. I don't know what the time's going to be.
Yes.
But scared fast It is
Scared
the
fast.
fastest fast.
It's a different fast. Like a dog. Let's say if it's a dog chasing you, right? You're on your morning walk, and all of a sudden some dog pops out. You're gonna move at a quicker pace. And so, yeah, like him getting past there, like to your point, Catch, he was looking back because he's like, this is not what I do, But when he does get there, and he does, to your point, I think it's a great one. When he mentions 22 miles an hour, when Sark does, that's like, oh snap. Like we don't see that. Yes, I'm just saying, scared people run fast. And I'm not saying he's scared, like, oh my God, I can't believe. But when he's like, holy crap, I don't want to get caught. I get to get the hell out of here. And all of a sudden you hit another great example of that, Jerry Rice. Catch. That you would put Jerry Rice, and his 40 time wasn't always great. His 100 time was always great. Put him on the field. No one's catching him from behind. Aaron, what else we got? We got any more? That's it. All right, Catch. Let's do one quick thing and let's get out. I haven't really mentioned Rogue Shop, even though they have been at the top. But rogueshop.com is the place that Catch and I absolutely love for all your legal CBD products, whether it's LaSalle's, whether it's the pre-rolls, whether it's anything. Catch and I enjoy it. We love it. We love it. Just being quite honest with you. Using some of my aches and pains, good night of sleep.
Just so you know, when it comes to like the cartridges, I was bragging a couple of weeks ago. I didn't even know if I was bragging. I was like, there's indica, there's sativa, there's a hybrid. And indica is like code for in the couch, that if you smoke it, you go into the couch. And I'm like, I don't really, there's not a big difference for me, sativas versus indicas or hybrids. Like they all kind of hit the same. I found an indica last week that put me into couch.
Ooh, okay.
Why am I so tired at 6 o'clock in the evening? Wait a minute. Oh, it is. So just so you know, pay attention to the labels, folks.
All right, I'm packing up because I gotta go. I will see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget to catch, of course, and Chad Hastings on House Divided at noon. I'm sure there'll be much to discuss from there. We obviously will have Alice Football with Friends at 3:30, and then the OB Outsiders tonight at 9 o'clock. Lots of Texas OU talk this week. Nothing but it. All Opinion Sports Show. I will email you, but bring in all your OU fans. Let's have a conversation. Let them know. We may be Texas centric, but we are definitely not going to treat you guys bad or disrespectful or anything like that. It's all a big sports family, and you guys are welcome as well. So I appreciate you coming and appreciate you being here. All right. For Jeff Ketchum, for Aaron, who does a wonderful job producing behind the scenes, again, and for everybody else at Orange Bloods, make sure you check it out. We've got Sark. I'm not going to set a line. But okay, Catch. Oh, I do it real quick. I don't care. Texas OU. I'm going to set the line at 11-13 for Sark appearing. You taking the over or the under?
Ooh, it's OU week.
It's OU week.
There's more national people will be there today. I'm going to say under the 11-13.
You'll go under the 11-13. You'll take the less.
It'll be proof that he could get there earlier if he wants to, because this is a thing that the entire nation's college football media will be paying attention to. He'll be more on time than at any point this season.
I'm going to take the more because he knows he's going to have to do the interviews with ESPN and them at some point this week. So he'll do the sit downs, and I think big games, he seems to be really focused in and doing a little bit extra to making sure his guys are dialed in. So I'm going to go more because I'm thinking he's going to be more focused on this team and doesn't really give a damn about us. Let's just be honest with you. Now, we'll see. Now, I got a question. I have a plan for him. That's a really, I think, a nice, positive question. So if I get any feedback, it's because he doesn't like us doing the more or less of what time he shows up, and that will be the only reason. It won't be because of the question. It will be personal, and we'll know that. Okay? All right. All right, let me get out of here. I gotta get downtown. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Live it, change like it was your last Monday. It will be. You guys take care. See ya.